marketplace has a criminal record. Mayor Eric Adams tells MSNBC that police need more crime-fighting resources.
The bad guys celebrate every time you say, I'm going to take a tool away from law enforcement. No, we must have the balance. Justice and safety can live and coexist together.
Randy Jones was arrested once in New York City for strangulation, 2 other times in Virginia. Now he's charged with murder and attempted robbery in the shooting death of Adid Fayaz. And police suspect Jones may be connected to a similar crime in the New York area. Southwest Airlines has canceled 2/3 of its flights in the wake of severe winter weather and internal systems issues. Cohen analyst Helen Becker tells Bloomberg TV more than 80% of flight cancellations earlier this week were just by Southwest Airlines.
They're just behind the curve here, and they probably will get caught up until the weekend at the earliest.
She says Southwest underinvested in IT, and it's come back to haunt them. The potential field for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination is expanding, including Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. Anyone considering a GOP run for the White House would have to face against former President Donald Trump. Hutchinson tells Bloomberg Sound On he knows how Republicans can beat Trump.
Well, I think he sort of beats himself. You look at what happened on January 6th and how he's conducted himself even since he lost the election. And it's not bringing out the best of America, not bringing out the best of our democracy. It's appealing to our worst instincts.
You can hear Sound On weekday afternoons at 5 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Global news powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg. Nathan.
Thank you, Amy. 6:33 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Sports Update, brought to you by Tri-State Audi. Let's get back to John Stenshauer.
Thanks, Nathan. The Nets' big three have all now left Brooklyn. James Harden's in Philadelphia. Kyrie Irving just played his first game for Dallas. And 3 days after that trade, the Nets sent Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns. He had asked for a trade last summer, and the wish was not granted. And KD was having a great season. The Nets got hot. They won 12 games in a row. But then KD got hurt. Nets started losing. Irving demanded the trade. And after that one was made, Durant obviously again wanted out of town. TJ Warren also sent to Phoenix. Brooklyn in return gets Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 first-round draft picks. The owners apparently got involved in cementing the deal. The Nets, Joe Tsai and Matt Ishbia, who just became the Suns owner the other day. The Knicks made a trade. They sent Cam Reddish, who had a permanent spot on the Knicks bench, with a first-round draft pick to Portland for Josh Hart. He'll now team up with Jalen Brunson. They were teammates at Villanova. In fact, Brunson learned of the trade as he was getting his number retired at Villanova. 3 other guards on the move. The Lakers traded Russell Westbrook to Utah, with Mike Conley going to Minnesota and D'Angelo Russell to the Lakers. In Kyrie Irving's first game with the Mavs last night, 24 points in a Dallas victory. At the Garden, Rangers beat Vancouver 4-3. Mika Zibanejad scored his 25th goal. Chris Kreider his 21st. 3 assists for Keandre Miller. Seton Hall lost to Creighton. Fordham won again, beat UMass. Commissioner Roger Goodell met the media in Phoenix and asked about criticism of NFL officiating. Goodell said he feels it's never been better. John Stenshauer, Bloomberg Sports. Nathan?
All right, John, thanks for that report. And the Bloomberg Sports Report was brought to you by Audi. Don't let someone else drive off in the Audi model you've always wanted. Visit your local Tri-State Audi dealer to get behind the wheel of yours today, or visit AudiOffers.com for more information.
I'm here at the Big Game headquarters. Total Wine and More, scoring huge savings on the perfect bourbon. Local craft beer.
Forgetting something?
Oh, yeah. Cabernet, seltzers, and so many low prices.
Valentine's Day is right after.
Oh, new game plan.
You got this. Total Wine can help you score the perfect bubbly, too.
Thank you. I would have been so...
You sure would have.
Your Big Game headquarters. Love what you find, always at the lowest price. Only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly. B21.
Technology lets you access a personal trainer from home, like on this exercise mirror.
Let's talk more squatting.
But to keep your hybrid workforce in shape, you need more than technology.
And kick. And jump.
You need PCs powered by Intel vPro, custom configured by CDW. Hardware-based security and remote management make it easy to protect and monitor PCs from anywhere.
Wait, don't turn me off.
Intel vPro makes secure remote management possible. CDW makes it powerful. Learn more at cdw.com/vPro.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk to facts about a Govix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact. Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment. A pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate camp rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Even in a time when almost nothing is easy, one thing has been effortless.
Now, our most important stories of the morning.
Accessing the world's latest financial and political news.
Fears of a global recession grow.
Wake up with Bloomberg Daybreak Europe Edition. Available now on your podcast feed each weekday morning by 7 a.m. in London. Get the news you need to start your day in just 15 minutes. Subscribe to Bloomberg Daybreak Europe Edition today on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Today, nearly all business is international business. The same goes for business disputes. That's why the International Center for Dispute Resolution provides a faster, more efficient approach to dispute resolution across borders. Backed by the American Arbitration Association, the ICDR is the world's leading provider of dispute resolution services. Find out why global expertise matters. Visit ICDR.org.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Whether you're an in-house counsel or in private practice, Bloomberg Law gives you the edge with the latest in AI-powered legal analytics, business insights, and workflow tools. With guidance from our experts, you'll grasp the latest trends in the legal industry, helping you achieve better results for the practice of law, the business of law, the future of law. The difference is Bloomberg Law. Learn more at BloombergLaw.com.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And at 6:40 on Wall Street, good morning. I'm Karen Moscow, and we check the markets all day long here on Bloomberg. Futures are on the rise. We go to the first word breaking news desk for today's morning call. And here's Bill Maloney. Bill, good morning.
And good morning, Karen. That's right. U.S. futures are pointing to a higher open, with Dow futures up 213 points. S&P's gained 31, and NASDAQ futures are higher by 140. The U.S. 10-year yield at 3.59%. Gold trading higher by 6. Oil is also higher, but Bitcoin is down by 1.2%. Hong Kong rose 1.6% overnight, while European markets are also in the green this morning. And back in the U.S. on the economic front at 8:30, initial jobless claims. After the bell last night, Disney reported is cutting 7,000 jobs. Shares are up 6% in the pre-market. And regarding earnings this morning, Pepsi beat estimates. Also look for Philip Morris to report in the pre-market. In other news, Credit Suisse clients pulled out $120 billion last quarter. Money managers have cut $300 billion of bearish stock bets, and JP Morgan fired hundreds of mortgage employees. Wrapping things up, Bank of America was cut to underperform at KBW. Affirm Holdings cut to sector perform at RBC. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Karen?
All right, Bill, thanks. And to hear live breaking news of your Bloomberg-type squawk on your terminal, that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Amy Morris with more on what's going on around the world. Amy.
Karen, Congress will receive classified briefings today on the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down off the coast of South Carolina. Intelligence officials will brief House lawmakers this morning. Senators will be briefed later today. A new study suggests more than 600 doctors may have died of COVID-related causes in the early days of the pandemic. The study from Stanford claims there was excess mortality among U.S. physicians in that time. In sports, the Nets sent Kevin Durant to Phoenix in a deal that includes 3 forwards and 4 first-round picks. The Warriors lose, the Wizards and Celtics win, and in the NHL, the Rangers win. Global news powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg. Karen.
Amy, thanks. It is 6:42 on Wall Street. We turn to news and science and technology now with the Bloomberg NJIT STEM report brought to you by New Jersey Institute of Technology. NJIT makes transferring easy. Leverage your associate's degree into a STEM-focused in-demand bachelor's. Learn more at njit.edu/transfer. And here's what's making news in science, technology, engineering, and math. The International Energy Agency predicts Asia will for the first time use half of the world's electricity by 2025, even as Africa continues to consume far less than its share of the global population. The IEA says much of Asia's electricity use will be in China, a nation of 1.4 billion people, whose share of global consumption will rise from a quarter in 2015 to a third by the middle of this decade. By contrast, Africa, home to almost a fifth of the world's nearly 8 billion inhabitants, will account for just 3% of global electricity consumption in 2025. Elon Musk is promising fixes after Twitter users from the U.S. to Asia were unable to tweet, follow news accounts, or check messages. It was one of the higher profile outages since Musk bought the platform and fired half its staff. Many of those who left Twitter worked on core infrastructure projects that helped keep the site operational. And the odds that Microsoft will be able to complete its $69 billion takeover of Activision Blizzard are dwindling. The UK's antitrust regulator is the latest to challenge the deal. The agency says the deal could harm competition in the UK gaming market, and Microsoft will need to offer remedies to receive approval. That's the Bloomberg NJIT STEM report. Nathan.
Thanks, Karen. 6:44 now on Wall Street. Time to check what's going on in D.C. Some of the top stories in our nation's capital include President Biden discussing the China balloon, classified documents, and his age in an interview with PBS. House Republicans offering cuts they would back in a debt limit deal, and investigations into Hunter Biden opening on Capitol Hill with a thud. For more, we're joined by Bloomberg government congressional reporter Jack Fitzpatrick. Pretty wide-ranging interview that the president gave to PBS NewsHour. Jack, what do you have to say about the Chinese balloon incident?
Not a ton. He was asked about it, and he downplayed any tensions that it would cause with the Chinese government, saying that he had already made it clear sort of what the U.S.'s relationship was going to be with China in previous conversations with Xi Jinping. He said there was communication between the governments about this, but he didn't speak directly to Xi about the balloon. Said that these are two economies in competition, but that the U.S.'s action to shoot down the balloon was sort of in good standing with that. But it essentially said, no, this doesn't mean that the relationship between the two countries has taken a hit.
And he also said a little bit more about the classified document discoveries than I think we've heard from this president up to now.
Yeah, he described them in his words as stray papers, things from 1974. He left it a little bit open-ended. He said there may be something else I don't know. We had previously learned that there were things that dated back to the 70s, but that it may have also encompassed some documents from his time as vice president. So it was definitely the president downplaying the significance of the material. He said that it was a matter of his staff packing up his office and not going through every single thing as they should have. And of course, he's said that no one had to threaten him in any way. He said he invited a search of his home, that this is something he's cooperating with, but essentially that this was a few mistakes in packing up his office, and that these were not important documents.
And I guess, Jack, the president also downplayed any concerns about his age. Of course, he is 80 years old, and it's something that he keeps getting asked about as he gets closer to that reelection decision, announcement, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, he said he'd be honest if there was if there were to be a health problem that would keep him from doing the job. But in his words, he said, "Watch me." He says he's in very good health. He said that it's in his intention to begin a reelection campaign in the spring. He thinks, but he says, I haven't made that decision firmly yet. So essentially, he laid out the idea that he's moving toward a reelection campaign, but that, you know, if there were to be a health problem, if there were to be something that pops up, he could change his mind. But essentially defended his health and his ability to run for reelection.
Let's turn to something I think we've been looking out for quite a few weeks now. The first glimpse at what Republicans would be willing to cut as part of a debt ceiling lifting negotiation.
Yeah, there had been much broader conversations about wanting spending caps and wanting spending cuts of some sort. The House Budget Committee Republicans, led by Jody Arrington, put out a list of things. None of them are shocking because members had kind of been getting at this for a while. But pulling back unspent COVID money from the COVID aid bills, about $100 billion. That's part of it. More work requirements, or at least fewer waivers of existing work requirements for things like nutrition programs. They have some cuts to the EPA that got money from the Inflation Reduction Act, stopping the freeze of student loan payments. There's some climate spending things. And really, other than that, you start to get into the classic waste, fraud, and abuse. That they've gotten even into lists of things that, around $1 million here, $1 million there, that they didn't like in the last government funding bill. It's not exactly a plan to balance the federal budget. Some of them are pretty big ticket items, but it is a much more specific list than anything Republicans had previously put out.
And something to keep an eye on as those negotiations continue, probably over the next several months here. Jack Fitzpatrick, as always, great to talk with you from Washington, D.C. Bloomberg government congressional reporter Jack Fitzpatrick with us this morning. And you can read more about these stories on Bloomberg.com or on the Bloomberg terminal. Follow all the latest on Bloomberg Radio in Washington, Bloomberg 99.1 and 105.7 FM HD2. S&P futures are higher right now by 32 points. Dow futures up 219. NASDAQ futures up 146 points. That is a gain of just about 1.2%. 10-year Treasury is up 132nd. Yield close to 3.59%. The yield on the 2-year is 4.41%. NYMEX crude is up 0.1%, up 9 cents at $78.56 a barrel.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. PepsiCo's latest results are a sign that inflation is not keeping consumers from their sodas and snacks. Fourth quarter profit beat Wall Street expectations.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
What we found when we started the Bloomberg Media Initiative Africa Financial Journalism Training Program was that many highly qualified journalists had limited experience writing data-driven business and financial stories. Bloomberg Philanthropies partnered with business schools and journalism schools to provide postgraduate education.
Bloomberg dedicates almost all of its profits to transforming lives around the world. See how at bloomberg.com/face the data.
Some bonds last a lifetime. Some bonds inspire confidence. And some you grow to rely on. These are the bonds worth investing in. For over 50 years, PIMCO has reinvented fixed income to create opportunities for investors in every market environment. So no matter what happens, you can build the bonds that mean the most to you. PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income. Learn more at pimco.com/bonds. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Consult your investment professional before investing.
What is dedication? My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings. That's that.
Money Minute. PepsiCo's latest results are a sign that inflation is not keeping consumers from their sodas and snacks. Fourth quarter profit beat Wall Street expectations. Pepsi also sees a key sales metric growing 6% this year, and that was above what analysts were expecting. Pepsi benefits from a broad mix of products from Mountain Dew to Frito-Lay chips. The global bird flu outbreak is getting worse. The World Organization for Animal Health says that just over 100 million poultry died or were culled due to bird flu between the start of October and February 3rd. That's more than triple the number in the same period in the previous season, which ended with record losses from the disease. Egg-laying hens have been among the hardest hit, boosting prices of eggs at the grocery store and further squeezing consumers. Stocks finished lower yesterday on Wall Street. Declines ranged from 0.6% to about 1.7%. The market looks headed for a higher open this morning. Gina Cervetti,
$8.53 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2% or $3.20 at $18.93.90 an ounce. The euro is at 1.0767 against the dollar. British pound 1.2146. The yen 130.97. And Bitcoin this morning is down 1.1%. It's at $22,700. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Nathan.
All right, Karen, thank you. It is 6:56 on Wall Street. Time to take a look at stocks. Some of the names moving in the pre-market with Bloomberg Radio and TV markets correspondent Kriti Gupta on an up morning for the futures. And it certainly doesn't hurt that we're getting all these positive earnings reports, including the latest from PepsiCo, Kriti.
Yeah, things are looking good for the snack and drink maker. PepsiCo PEP is your ticker. Shares up about 1.7% in the pre-market. Now, they came out with a fourth quarter profit that, of course, beat expectations in a really good way. Remember, Nathan, a lot of these earnings stories are really being judged quite harshly when it comes to margins, when it comes to profitability. And the fact that PepsiCo, which, by the way, makes not just Pepsi, but a little bit of everything. Think Quaker Oats,
a lot of snacks, right?
A lot of snacks. Gatorade, for example, even like the Starbucks Frappuccinos that come in a bottle, they help distribute some of that in a partnership with Starbucks. So they do a lot of different things. And one of the big concerns here was because they are so exposed to really every kind of part of the food market, they wouldn't be able to pass on the cost to consumers, especially when it comes to those higher commodity costs we've seen in the fourth quarter and really most of last year, and costs that are still quite high at the moment, even though they are coming down. The earnings suggest, though, that that is not really much of an issue, because if you actually strip out items like currency volatility, for example, they're still growing about 6% in organic sales. The street had about a 5% estimate there. So some good news from PepsiCo. They're growing and they're able to pass their costs on to consumers, and that is being rewarded in the market this morning. PEP up 1.7%, Nathan. But I think we all want to hear about Disney, because that's the high flying stock this morning. DIS is your ticker. Shares up about 6% in the pre-market. Now, this, of course, comes after they reported earnings after the bell yesterday. They announced a restructuring. It includes 7,000 job cuts and $5.5 billion in cost savings. Remember, this is the first earnings report since Bob Iger retook the helm of the company. So this is really kind of a gut check for him. Of course, he said it's a painful decision, but one that is necessary for, once again, the profitability story of
Disney. They did also beat their sales and profit estimates, specifically in their parks area. And remember, Nathan, a lot of people are kind of thinking of Disney as Disney Plus right now, but about 40% of their revenue comes from their parks business. So the fact that you're seeing profitability jump there is a pretty big deal. I also want to highlight Robinhood very quickly. HOOD shares up about 6% in the pre-market. They also reported earnings yesterday. And on top of that, the co-founders of the company canceled about $500 million of their share-based compensation. Looks like analysts are really rewarding them for potentially turning profitable down in the future. Being lean and trim is really, like I said, a good thing in this market.
Yeah, it's kind of the theme right now, particularly when you think of Disney as well. Thanks for this, Bloomberg Radio and TV markets correspondent, Kriti Gupta. Futures are moving higher off the back of all those earnings. S&P futures are up 31 points. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg Daybreak. I'm Nathan Hager alongside Karen Moscow. It is 6:59 on Wall Street, and Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and Lisa Abramowitz starts right.
I think it's very tough to take what Powell said and to say risk on.
There's a huge amount of uncertainty out there.
I don't know that inflation is a one-way trip up and a one-way trip down.
It does look like maybe some of the biggest, most aggressive inflation on the good side has come off, but we still have this services inflation.
People have either put themselves in the transitory camp or the not transitory camp, and the reality is we have some of both.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and Lisa Abramowitz.
Can we just pause for how beautiful New York City looks this morning? Just absolutely stunning. Good morning to you, Tom. Emotional, sensitive.
It's like an early
spring,
is. and to be clear, we've had a non-winter. We had a little bit of snow, but
we had a weak winter.
It's essentially been a non-winter.
I think we're getting to about 11, 12 centigrade
cold
today. What's that in Fahrenheit?
It's like 60. Like we're getting out on the edge of 60.
Nice. Okay. It's good. Bramo's wondering what we're talking about, so let's move on. Equity futures positive 0.75%
the only one.
On the S&P. You think other people
People understand
New York City?
It's fantastic.
Warmer.
It's fantastic to watch it on a screen from afar because we can't actually see it. But I will tell you this: it is beautiful. I love it when the sun comes up, but it's uncomfortable. It's been so warm. It's been like,
it's
where's my
uncomfortable.
winter?
You heard this? This is how bears feel.
Oh God! S&P 4,200. We back in S&P 4,200.
Possibly, yeah.
Nasdaq up a stick this morning. Are we thinking 13,000 Nasdaq? I mean, is this a bull market? Ben Laidler was talking about that earlier.
I'm thinking February 14th might have something to say about that. That's the next big stop for this market. Never mind the Fed speak, Lisa. It's all about CPI next week.
If we get a hotter print, how much does that really take some of the momentum out? Versus how much do we see a rally kind of reassert itself? And this perhaps is the case that people aren't talking enough about. If the CPI comes in softer, if we get this feeling of disinflation and people buy back into the immaculate disinflation story that seems to take hold in January.
Jobless claims a little bit later, 8:30 Eastern time. We're looking for 190,000. Up from what, 183 previously?
Yeah, well,
just stunning. So compare and contrast that data point to what we're hearing from companies. So the Walt Disney Company, the latest to say 7,000 job cuts. I think Affirm, do you remember buy now, pay later? Yeah. Big boom last couple of years, 19% of the workforce set to go. I think part of the JP Morgan business around mortgages, some cuts there as well. So we're seeing these cuts come to the surface, just not seeing it in the labor market data.
Well, we see the cuts there, and then you have the likes of Pepsi coming out better than expected. You see Hilton just coming out, reporting earnings that beat estimates, this idea of travel, and you can't fire what you can't hire, right? And you've been saying that a lot, John. So you have the service sector that wasn't able to add the employees during the pandemic quickly enough that now are restaffing and bringing people back on. So again, how much do the headline layoffs really reflect true softening in a labor market?
Corporate discipline's back. Can I say the quote of the week goes to Satya Nadella of Microsoft in the Financial Times. Did you see this quote?
Which one?
I haven't heard a tech company, a big tech firm say, you know what, your margin's my opportunity for a long, long time. And he name-checked Google by name and said the following: from now on, the gross margin of search is going to drop forever. He went on to say this: there is such margin in search, which for us is incremental. For Google, it's not. They have to defend it all. Like, that's pretty punchy stuff.
Well, at a time when, and I'm sorry to keep mentioning ChatGPT, but artificial intelligence is changing the game for search, which is the reason why Google shares torpedoed yesterday, because their attempt at ChatGPT wasn't as successful as people thought. But this really is going to squeeze the margins because you can take out a lot of the people that are behind it.
You're telling me Bing is going to take over search?
Do you Bing a lot?
Do you Bing?
No, I looked at it 14 years ago and said, "Are you kidding me?" And moved on.
Lisa and I talked about this yesterday. You probably didn't hear us.
Probably didn't hear it.
No, good.
Oh my goodness.
I love it when you do that. It's great. Thank you, Tom. I think the analyst community are slightly pushing back to Tom's point that maybe we're taking this too far. It's very early days, but I think it is notable to hear Satya Nadella of Microsoft just say, you know what, we want some of that.
We want some of your business. And you know what? We have the infrastructure and the programmers to make it happen, which highlights, first of all, how transformative some of this technology really is. And second of all, why good artificial intelligence programmers are in massive demand regardless of the labor market.
Equities right now up 0.75% on the S&P 500. Lisa will run you through the day ahead in just a moment. Yields coming in a couple of basis points. A 10-year, Lisa, just sub 360, 358.80 on a 10-year yield.
And we'll get some more sense of whether we go further or lower in terms of yield, higher in terms of price on that 10-year after the incredible auction that we saw yesterday. Today, we're looking at jobless claims, 8:30 a.m. We get that latest read. If you take a look at the chart of initial jobless claims.
On radio, it's a great chart.
It basically shows how high they were in the aftermath of the immediate pandemic lockdowns, and then just how they have just compressed to some of the lowest jobless claims that we've seen on record. I did strip out the pandemic, though, John, because I know it's a chart crime. So that is an issue. Okay, 1 p.m. We're waiting for the next auction. Tom, you got to pay attention to these auctions. Yesterday's 10-year auction was actually really important. Today, they're selling $21 billion of 30-year bonds. Do you get the same kind of flood of international cash coming into the U.S. market because they do see the Fed successfully bringing inflation into control?
Well, I think you're right. When you see this coming up, I think you're way out front on this. I mean, you're the one that brought to my attention the T-bills near 5%. People like me don't know that.
And since they've actually come in a little bit, perhaps because everyone's like, wait a second, this is actually a really good deal. So perhaps that is also affecting the cost of money. And Satya Nadella's point of, just in terms of rationalizing some of the expenditures. And aftermarket, we get a bunch of different earnings, including Lyft, also Expedia, Yelp, PayPal, all of this really a question around the consumer. And John, that's what I'm looking for. Do we get a sense of how strong, how resilient the consumer is in the face of still pent up cash and a labor market that's very strong?
Uber numbers were pretty decent. Lyft right now up about 2.3%. Around the table with us here in New York, I'm pleased to say, David Leibovitz, Global Markets Strategist at JP Morgan Asset Management. David, good morning to you. Good morning. Why shouldn't I just buy a T-bill with a yield close to 5% and call it a year and walk away?
So it's interesting because the conversations that we've been having with clients as of late are, do you take advantage of this near-term opportunity that's manifested itself in fixed income, or do you look at what's gone on in equity markets, and this was more before the rally we've seen over the past couple of weeks, begin to step in there with the idea that over the course of, say, 2 to 3 years, you'll outperform, albeit with higher volatility. We see a lot of people embracing that short duration fixed income trade. I think to your point earlier about the rally that we're seeing and the expectations around inflation, it's going to take one bad inflation print, one unfortunate jobs print, one hawkish speech from a Fed member to I think, move risk assets in the other direction. And so from our vantage point, we want to continue to play it relatively close to the chest, hit singles and doubles. And I think short-term fixed income allows you to do that.
How much are you in cash? To me, it's really germane here going into this inflation report in February versus the last week of December. What is the recommendation on a cash position?
So we'd be comfortable holding a little bit more cash
Give me a number.
usual.
Come on.
So I think if your baseline is a 60-40 portfolio, having up to 5% in cash to us makes sense. On the one hand, cash is actually paying you something, right? To your point about T-bills, it's not like you're sitting there earning zero, which was the case for the better part of the prior expansion. At the same time, it does feel like markets are a bit ahead of themselves. And so we think that there will come an opportunity later on this year to deploy that cash at more favorable valuations.
We've got out of our London desk this morning, we have a fabulous article about how trend followers are getting on the bull market trend. And a lot of other people are rationalizing this. You at JP Morgan are living this in real time. Are you people detecting a bull market trend, or is there so many secondary ideas out there you just can't get on board?
So I would say more the latter relative to the former. I think that the big thing that nobody's talking about is where the VIX is. I mean, volatility is low. VIX is below 20. That brings all the systematic players, all the trend followers back into the market. You look at the backup that we've seen in rates. You look at what's gone on in equities. They're latching on to that. But my point, and I guess what gives me a little bit of pause, is the market tension that I see between equities and rates that's evolved really since Powell spoke at the January FOMC. You've seen rates move higher, you've seen equities move higher, and that move higher in equities has been led by the names that were most sensitive to rates in 2022. So, I mean, maybe help me square this circle. Maybe I'm missing something, but it feels like there's a bit of a tug of war here. I think the bond market's going to end up being right.
So what are you looking for in terms of reassessing and deploying that 5% of cash that you're holding?
So I think, again, it's really about expectations. On the one hand, on the earnings front, right, expectations are finally begin to